We begin with what's being called the mystery in Beijing. The plot is thickening. If Xi Jinping is the master magician, then China's defense minister is his latest trick. His name is Li Shangfu, and he is still missing. The latest reports say he has been sacked, but they don't answer some very basic questions like why. Also, where has he gone? But then again, we've seen this same script before, same script, different protagonist. In the month of June, in fact, it was China's foreign minister. His name was Qin Gang. He too went missing. And then he was sacked. He's still missing. And now Defense Minister Li Shangfu is missing. Has he too been sacked? Well, we don't know for sure, and Beijing will not say. Listen to their response.
Where is China's Defense Minister Li Shangfu? Is he under investigation?
I'm not aware of the situation you mentioned.
This is remarkable. Two top ministers of China go missing, and Beijing's official spokesperson is clueless. She says, I'm not aware of the situation. Like always, there is an information vacuum, and this is fueling a lot of speculation. Defense Minister Li Shangfu has not been seen for over 2 weeks now. When was his last public appearance? In late August. He gave a speech at a China-Africa Security Conference, and since then he has not been seen. Neither has Beijing spoken about it. So China watchers are now retracing Li's steps. That's how they're trying to join the dots. Li Shangfu had a packed schedule. In recent weeks, he had meetings lined up. Last week, he was supposed to be in Vietnam. What for? A defense cooperation meeting. China and Vietnam were supposed to discuss their border. Li had to meet the defense leaders of Vietnam. This was supposed to be a 2-day engagement. The dates were 7th and 8th September. But just before the event, Li pulled out. Beijing told Hanoi the defense minister will not be able to come. Reason? Health condition. This is according to 2 Vietnamese officials. Does this ring a bell? It's like a story that's running on loop. When Qin Gang disappeared, China gave the same excuse. They said the minister is not keeping well. The story was hard to swallow then, and this one is equally tough to digest. In recent days, Defense Minister Li has missed more engagements. The Navy Chief of Singapore was in China. His name is Rear Admiral Shen Watt. He visited Beijing for 5 days, from 4th to 9th September. And the Defense Minister, Li Shangfu, was supposed to meet him too. But he did not show up. Even Singapore was taken by surprise. They haven't issued an official statement, but some reports have come out. They quote officials off the record. The Rear Admiral wanted to meet Defense Minister Li. The meeting was part of their official schedule, but it did not happen. We are not sure if China gave a reason for the no-show. And the record does not inspire confidence. Beijing has a history of being evasive, especially about such disappearances. So don't expect them to make a statement on Li's whereabouts. The information is flowing from other sources, like the United States of America. They seem to have insider info, and they say the Chinese defense minister could be under house arrest. I'll repeat that. The Chinese defense minister could be under house arrest. This has come from a top US diplomat. His name is Rahm Emanuel. He's the US ambassador to Japan, and he's been very vocal on this issue. In fact, it was this ambassador, he was the first person to shine light on Li's disappearance. He posted about it on social media a few days back, and now he says the minister is under house arrest. Notice the language he uses, quite unusual for a diplomat. But such are the times we live in. The US government has made an assessment. They have reason to believe that Li Shangfu is under investigation and that he's been sacked. So Li is no longer China's defense minister. That's what America says. China has not confirmed or denied this. What is Li being investigated for? Most likely a procurement scam. You see, before becoming the defense minister, Li Shangfu managed the PLA's procurement unit, the Chinese Army's procurement unit. And recently there were reports of corruption related to this unit. China has begun an investigation. So has the defense minister been purged? We may never get an official answer. Remember, the foreign minister has been gone for 3 months. He has not resurfaced, and Beijing has not bothered to explain what happened. That's how Xi Jinping operates. He skipped the G20 summit, no reasons given. His top ministers are missing, no explanation. This is both baffling and worrying. This unpredictability and lack of accountability poses a threat to the world. Imagine this from the perspective of a country like India. We share a 3,000-kilometer long border with China. There's a standoff, 3 years and counting. Last month, there was an agreement to de-escalate. Now the defense minister is MIA, missing in action. Where does that leave the border talks? Who should New Delhi engage with? At this rate, can you count on any minister in China or on any decision that they agree to? These are questions I'm sure the whole world is asking. What do you make of a country where the top businessmen go missing, where film stars and sports icons disappear, where top ministers vanish without a trace? It's unstable and dangerous, especially when it's the second largest economy in the world. Missing ministers or not, China's strategic ambition keeps growing. The next target is Turkey. Talks are underway for a new nuclear power plant. Ankara says the deal could happen soon. Chinese officials inspected possible locations. They're keen on this part, Eastern Thrace, which borders Greece and Bulgaria. If things go to plan, the deal could be signed within months, which means China could build a nuclear plant in Turkey. Now, this raises questions. What does Turkey's nuclear landscape look like? Why China? And what are the wider strategic implications of this? Let's go one by one. Turkey has 2 nuclear power plants. The first is under construction. It is being built by Russia. Reports say it will be operational by next year. The second is still being planned. It's down to Russia and South Korea. Either of them could build the second power plant. So the Chinese one will be the third. But why does Turkey need so many? Because they are spending too much on importing energy. Look at these numbers. Turkey's overall import bill is $364 billion, $364 billion. Out of this, 80 billion is energy. That's around 22%. So Ankara wants to reduce this dependence. They want to replace imported energy with domestic nuclear power. Plus, nuclear energy is considered green. And Turkey wants to be carbon neutral by 2050. For that, you need more nuclear power plants. In fact, 3 may not be enough. Ankara wants to produce 20 gigawatts from nuclear plants. That's 4 times the capacity of one plant. So the country needs a boost. Along with the big reactors, they may also need SMRs, small modular reactors, SMR. Last year, they reached out to Washington for these SMRs. Talks were on to buy around 35 of them, but that was in December 2022. Since then, there has been no update. Did the Americans back out? Is that why Turkey is reaching out to China? Well, maybe, but China's nuclear dominance is not new. It has been decades in the making. In the last century, the US was considered the gold standard. They had the best reactors. But recently, Washington has lost out. China is currently building 21 nuclear reactors. That's 2.5 times more than any other country. So the lead is massive. It also helps that China's nuclear power companies are state-run. They have government patronage. They get all the subsidies. So they have the edge. Which brings us to the final question. What are the strategic implications here? Well, nuclear cooperation is not like any other. It's unlike any other. It's not like building a factory abroad. Nuclear plants are strategic assets. You can't just build and leave. Take Russia, for example. They are also using nuclear power to exert influence. Moscow has 34 reactors operating in 11 countries. Some of them are US allies. In fact, Turkey is the best example. Like we said, their first nuclear plant is being built by Russia. It's called the build, own, operate model. Build, own, operate. Moscow will send thousands of engineers to operate this plant. Only 30% of the workers will be local. Do you see the implications here? Russia will have a permanent strategic presence in Turkey, and looks like China wants the same. But what does it say about the Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan? It shows that he's confident about China and Russia, that he trusts them. Just think about it. Would you trust your rivals with strategic nuclear assets? With more than 10% of your total electricity? Chances are you won't. You would rather have your allies handle them, which is why Turkey's decision is so important and worth noting. We are talking about a NATO member here. Instead of going to the West, Erdogan is going to Russia and China for nuclear power. It's a sign of the growing divide. Last week, the West announced a new economic corridor with India. Erdogan opposed it. But the same Erdogan joined China's Belt and Road project. Last month, there was talk of Turkey also joining CPEC, that's the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Pakistan's then Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif invited Erdogan to join it. So the trajectory is quite clear. Erdogan is linking his fortunes to Russia and China. He can do that without fearing the US. After all, Ankara is still Washington's treaty ally, NATO member. We saw that leverage earlier this year. Finland and Sweden were looking to join the NATO. Erdogan agreed, but with conditions. Finland has joined the alliance. Sweden is still being held up. Reports say Erdogan wants F-16 fighter jets from the US, then he will accept. So my point is, Erdogan finds himself in a diplomatic sweet spot. He can build reactors with China. He can buy fighter jets from the US, he can sell drones to Ukraine and purchase military systems from Russia, all without consequences. It's a fine line that the Turkish president is trying to walk. And now it's time for Vantage shots, images that tell the story. Looks like Kim Jong-un lived his Top Gun dreams in Russia. The North Korean leader was seen sitting in the cockpit of a fighter jet. In the United States, a new video shows airport staff stealing from bags. So next time, remember to get some padlocks for your luggage. And the Northern Lights put on a dazzling show over the Scottish Islands, lighting up the night sky. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1978, Muhammad Ali won the world heavyweight boxing title for the third time, becoming the first boxer ever to do so. Just a year after that, Ali announced that he was retiring, but finally left the sport in 1981. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend.